notes in that. Already I given you code, right? You go there. When I given the code, you should not face any issue in that. You should verify line by line every point, see 2 times, 3 times. You must be able to do by yourself. Okay. You should not try to execute my code. You have to try to write by yourself and execute. Copy, paste, and run my code. That doesn't make any much sense. Okay. You have to write by yourself. You have to design everything. You copy my code and paste it and run it. Then for that you don't need to learn any technology. You have to do by yourself. And if you are perfect in this, then I will give you some exercises to practice. Okay. Yeah, you try that. If you face still any problem, let me know about this. Okay. Bye. Yeah. Okay, so that is the example we learned about the concept of how we can deal with all primitive types, primitive data types, and how do we work with the primitive data types. Next, after understanding the primitive data types, we need to know about the non-primitive types. Non-primitive types. Primitive types. Technically, what are non-primitive types and how do we deal with the non-primitive types? Primitive types examples. So primitive types means we have a number, we have a string, we have a boolean, we have null, and we have undefined. Undefined. Non-primitive types. So we have option. What are non-primitive types? First, we need to understand that. Generally, non-primitive types are mutable types. Mutable types. Mutable types means we can change the range. We can change the range and capacity. Right. 1 second. Yeah, the non-primitive types can change as per the state and situation. So they don't have any fixed range for values. Actually, value range value range varies according to browser memory. How much memory is available, based on that it varies. I already told you, number have a fixed range. If anyone asks how to know range of number, remember how to know the range of number? Can you tell how to know the range of number? How do we know the range of number? What we can use to know the range of number? Can you tell that? How do we tell the range of number? Yeah, we have an option. Remember, I told you we can know the range of number. Right? What is the range of number? So we have to identify the range of number. We have min safe number, max safe number, min safe integer, max safe integer. Am I right? Right? Yeah. All you people alive? You are alive? All people, 85 people are there, all are alive now? Because I am unable to find any response from you people. Right. I asked you a question, and if no response, then I think that you are either sleeping or out of range. You are out of range. Huh? Tomorrow I will give you some exercises, and I will allow people, only the people who done the exercises, I will allow only them to the session. That will be good, so that I can verify each and every person how much you are practicing. Huh? Tomorrow I will give one task, and I will allow only people to the session who done the task. Everyone I will verify one by one and allow. Okay. Then I will see how you will not respond. If you are not practicing, then you can't handle full stack development. Just by listening, you cannot handle. You have to practice very well. You need to practice more examples and exercises. Right. Okay, then let's continue here. Non-primitive types are mutable types. The change and the situation can, as per the situation, their range can change. They don't have any fixed range of value, and they are stored in memory heap. Actually, they are stored in memory heap. Generally, primitive types are stored in where the primitive types are stored. Primitive types are stored in where the primitive types are stored. In what type of memory primitive types are stored? In what type of memory primitive types are stored? Stack. Am I right? Yeah. Right. Stack. Now stack uses last in first out mechanism, but non-primitive types are stored in memory heap. They are stored in memory heap, and what is the advantage of memory heap is there is no order of accessing. You can access from any location. There is no order of accessing. You can access from any location. They don't have any fixed range for the value. So the value range can change according to the memory available, and you can store in a memory in such a way that you can access in random order. And the JavaScript non-primitive types, JavaScript non-primitive types, non-primitive types are JavaScript non-primitive types are, we have an array type, we have an object type, and we have an regular expression type. Array, object, and regular expression, these are considered as non-primitive types. These are considered as non-primitive types. Now, what are these types and how to deal with them? That means what is array, what is object, what is regular expression? We will see that. First, we will see how to use them. How do we configure them? First, we will see what is an array type. Actually, generally, arrays in computer programming, array in computer programming is used. Array in computer programming is used to reduce overhead and complexity. That is the main purpose of array. Array in computer programming is used to reduce overhead and complexity. Generally, when you have learnt about the concept of array in various technologies, you might have learnt that array is similar type of values, collection of similar type of values. Am I right? You might have learned that array is similar type of values, right? Yeah. But actually, that is only in your technology. It is not applicable for universally in computer programming. Why? Because if anyone asks why we use arrays in computer programming, then the first point you should say that arrays are used in computer programming to reduce overhead and complexity. You should not say that arrays are used for storing similar type of values. So storing similar type of values is not the feature of array. It is the characteristics of array, one of the characteristic of array, and I will show you that. I will show you that point here. If you say that array is used to store similar type of values, it can be proved wrong every time. For example, I will show you here array.html. Let's write a script here. I will write a script here and a function, and we will call the function. How to define array later I will tell you. Observe here, where some values is equal to, it is an array, it is having a string, it is having a number, it is having a boolean. So it is having a boolean, it is having this. So are these similar type of values? Are these similar type of values? I am printing the values.toString, values.toString. Then I will save this and I will run this. You can see that. So those values are working. So now if you say array is similar type of values, then you are wrong every time. So you should say that in my Java, array is similar type of values. In my .NET, array is similar type of values. That's it. In your technology, array is similar type of value. Not in every technology and in every computer programming. If array is not similar type of value, then what is purpose of array? That means there might be some more than similar type of value. The main purpose of array is, arrays are used in computer programming for reducing overhead and reducing the complexity. What is meant by overhead? What is meant by overhead? And what is complexity? We will see that. Actually, to understand overhead, you need to know about a point like, so in the early days, memory in the early days, memory in electronic devices. So in early days, memory in electronic devices, we have to store the data. When initially electronic devices started, they used to store the data in a magnetic tape. Magnetic tape. You know it? You know the magnetic tape now? You know that early days, so data is stored in magnetic tapes. So you have tape recorder, audio cassettes, VCR, video cassettes. Data is stored in magnetic tapes. And do you know in magnetic tapes, the data is stored in a sequential order. So data is stored in a sequential order. In a magnetic tape, data is stored in a sequential order. It is stored in a sequential order. Generally, there will be a read-write head. Usually there will be a read-write head. That read-write head will read the data in a sequential order. The tape will be rotating. Do you know, in order to listen to the previous song, you have to rewind and play again. You know that? If you want to listen to the previous song or you want to watch the previous one, you have to rewind and you have to play. So this is early days memory. Up to this point, we don't have any problem. But the problem started when disks were introduced. The problem started when disks were introduced. So we started using disk like floppy disk. So we started using like compact disk, like hard disk. So we started using these type of devices, disk. So we started using these disk devices. Now when started using these disks, now the problem is actually in the disk, data is stored. In the disk, data is stored. This is the disk. In the disk, data is stored in tracks and sectors. You know it? Tracks and sectors. In a disk, data is stored in tracks and sectors. You know that, na? So data is stored in tracks and sectors. You know it, right? Data is stored in tracks and sectors. That means data is stored in the tracks and sectors. Yeah. But important is in these tracks and sectors, how data is stored. In these tracks and sectors, how data is stored. Actually, in these tracks and sectors, data is stored in this direction actually. It is stored in this direction. It is stored in this direction. That means here the value gets in this direction. That means we have the value, this is 1. So here we have 2, here we have 3. Like that value is stored in that direction. And after that here it is 4. Then again here it is 5. Again it is 6. The value are stored in this direction. In this direction. That is how data is stored. You can observe that. Suppose if you know floppy CDs, hard disks. So I will show you here the disks, floppy or CD or hard disk drives. Let's see, suppose we are searching for hard disk drive. You can see that this is the hard disk drive, inside the part of hard disk drive. Now in the hard disk drive, you can see this is the hard disk drive. Let's open one option like here. I will show you the hard disk drive is having this. Let's open this here. The hard disk drive is some image I have. Yeah, this is the hard disk drive. This is the hard disk drive. And when you look at this hard disk drive, so when you look this hard disk drive, see, I will show you here. Generally, this hard disk drive contains a read-write pin, you can see this is a read write head actually. This is a read write head. And it is attached to a spindle here. So it is attached here. It is an arm, read write arm. And you see that. So disk will rotate around, but this can move in this direction. It can move in this direction only. Can move in this direction. That means disk is rotating round and it will move like a viper. So left and right, it can move like a viper. In a sequential order, it can move. It can move in a sequential order. So data is stored in this way. 1, 2, 3, like this. Data is stored in this way. Data is stored in this way. So that means in this direction. After it reaches to the end, then again it will come in this way. In this way. Data stores in that direction actually. Not in a spiral way. Don't think that data is stored in a spiral way. Right? It is not in a spiral way. Data is stored in this direction. So when data is stored in that direction, technically, what is the problem is, if data is stored in that direction, now suppose this place, that means this particular portion is left empty. And here data is stored in other locations. Suppose A, some B, some C. Data is stored in some other location. And our read-write head is this is the read-write head actually. Now this read-write head, it will go here. It will see that it is full. When it is full, it will not go further. It will go to the next location. It will write there. And it will go to the next location like that. Now the problem is this space is always empty. This place is always empty. That blocked one is always empty. That means you have space, but you cannot utilize that space. This problem is called overhead. In your computer memory, so you have space, but you are unable to utilize that space. Now, for this, generally, in your mobile phones, in your computers, you have an option called optimize disk. You have that option, optimize disk. You have an option called optimize disk. Am I right? You have an option optimize disk. What will happen if you optimize disk? Yes, optimize disk defragmentation. Am I right? Yeah. Disk defragmentation, optimize disk. What is the purpose of disk defragmentation, optimizing disk? Do you know that? So optimizing disk defragmentation, what they will do is, they will move all used sectors one side and all unused sectors another side. Used sectors one side and unused sectors another side. They will not clear space. How they will clear space? They will delete some content. Without deleting, they have to adjust the space now. Understood? And don't think that they will compress your data. Compressed data you cannot read. So data is not compressed. Then how space is adjusted is, the sectors which are unused, they are again used by pushing them one side. So memory is available, but it is not utilized. So that is called overhead. To overcome this overhead problem in the memory, in computer programming, they introduced a concept called array. What is purpose of array is, array stores values in sequential order. Sequential order. Array stores values in sequential order. When array stores sequential order, if array stores values in sequential order, reads the values in any order, it stores the values in sequential order. If it can store the values in sequential order, then it can reduce overhead. It can reduce overhead. Understood, everyone? How array can reduce overhead? Array can reduce overhead by storing values in sequential order. How arrays can reduce complexity? Arrays can reduce complexity by storing multiple values under one name, by storing multiple values under one name. So arrays can reduce overhead and can reduce complexity. If anyone asked what is purpose of array, the main purpose of array is to reduce overhead and to reduce complexity. Everyone understood? Up to this, everyone understood? Arrays are used for reducing overhead and complexity. And important is, array can store various types of values. Array can store various types of values. But some technologies cannot allocate different types of memory in a sequential order. That is the problem in some technologies. That is the reason those technologies will restrict array to similar type of values. But array can store various types of values. So some technologies cannot allocate different types of memory in sequential order. Due to that, in those technologies, arrays can store only similar type of values, but not in JavaScript. JavaScript array can handle various types of values. JavaScript array can handle various types of values. So that means if you say array is similar type of values, that is a wrong definition you are giving. So you can say that in my technology, array is same type of values, but main purpose of array is overhead and complexity. JavaScript array can handle different types of values. You saw that here. It is having a string, it is having a number, it is having a boolean. It can have various types of values. Another important point is, generally you might have learned that array size cannot be changed dynamically. Have you heard that point also? Array size cannot be changed dynamically. Have you heard about that also? Array size cannot be changed dynamically, right? Array size cannot be changed dynamically. That is also your technology problem. That means that is Java problem, .NET problem, C++ problem. But many low-level languages which directly can interact with hardware services, they allow array to change the size dynamically. That means in JavaScript, array size can be changed dynamically. Array size can be changed dynamically. For example, see here. Suppose I am saying values is a new array. How to declare array, I will tell you. Suppose I am saying 2. That means the size is set to 2. I am saying values of 0 is equal to 10. Values of 1 is equal to 20. So values of 2 is equal to 30. And values of 3 is equal to 40. That means I am allocating only 2, but I am storing 4 values into it. Generally in your different technologies, so this will be an error. It says that index out of range. Am I right? Index out of range. Because those technologies cannot change the array size dynamically. But actually array size can be changed dynamically. You can see here the array size is changed dynamically. It is allowed. There is no problem in this. There is no problem in this. So that means if you say arrays are similar type values, array size cannot be changed dynamically, those are all wrong definitions. They are all limitations of array in your technologies. Array universally in computer programming, array can be used for handling different type values. Array size can be changed dynamically. So Java, .NET, C++, some technologies cannot handle different types of memory in a sequential order. That is the reason those technologies have another concept called collections. Have you heard about that? They have a concept called collections. They use collections to change the size dynamically. You heard about that? Collections. Many technologies have collections, right? That means why they have collections? Because their array cannot handle everything. That is the reason they have to use another concept called collection. But here you don't need that. Remember, JavaScript array can have the behavior of, it can have the behavior of stack, it can have the behavior of queue, it can have the behavior of hash table. Hash table means it can have the behavior like a dictionary type collection. Dictionary type collection, that means key and value type collection. That means array can change the size in several ways. Array can have the behavior of all of this. That is the reason in JavaScript, one array is enough to handle everything. It can work as a stack, it can work as a queue, it can work as a hash table. It have all the behaviors. That is the concept of array actually. So technically, these are the points about array. And in JavaScript, you have a full scope of using the array in all the ways. You can create arrays and you can handle different types of values in. The main purpose is reducing overhead and complexity. So now we will see how do we declare the array. That means how do we declare the array, how do we configure the array and work with the array. That means how to declare array. Declaring array. Generally, to declare array, so we have var, so the variable name is equal to, we can use a meta character. This is meta character, square brace. This is meta character. Already we know the purpose of this meta character. What is the purpose of this meta character? Square brace indicates range of values. Am I right? It indicates multiple values. Right? Range or multiple values. We can define meta character, or we can also use var. Variable name is equal to new array. We can also use new array. Generally, this is allocating array type of memory here. Actually, this type of array constructor, this is called array constructor. Array constructor is used in various stages to restrict the values by any specific medium. That means, suppose I want to restrict 3 values. I want to restrict 4 values. Then what I can do is, I can pass that size here. After passing that size, I told you that this size can be changed. But what we will do is, after passing the size, we will get the length of that. How much size is passed, we will get that length. And we have to manually write a program and a logic to restrict the additional values that are entered more than the length defined. It cannot restrict, but you can pass a value and you can use the value to handle the restriction. So you can declare by using array meta character, or you can declare by using array constructor. Both are same. Only the point is dynamically, if you want to restrict the size of array through your custom logic means with your own logic, then this array constructor will play the good role. Later in some examples I will show you. And very important is, this is declaring, and after this is declaring and initializing memory for the array. After initializing the memory, how do we store values into array? This is declaring array. How we can store the values into array? That means there are two options. We can initialize values, or we can assign values. There are two options. We can initialize values, we can assign values. Assign, or I told you, right, render values. We can assign or render the values. Render values into the variable actually. You have two options, initializing the values or assigning the values. How we can initialize the values into memory? For example, see here. I said var, so values, or I say suppose categories is equal to array. You can initialize the values here. Suppose I said electronics. Suppose I said some footwear, like this. I am defining the options like this, configuring the values like this. We are defining and configuring the values in this way. Okay. Next important is, this is initializing. So yeah, this is initializing the values. I told you we can initialize the values in this way, or we can render or assign the values. Here very important is, when you initialize the values, generally observe carefully, this is also important to understand. When you initialize the values, what happens? Suppose I said here, so var, so and categories is equal to, so electronics and footwear, like this I defined. Now usually what happens is, how they are defined in the memory, how they are handled in the memory. Actually, now the memory is allocated for this categories. So that means this is categories. For categories, the memory is allocated. This is categories array, the memory is allocated. And memory have partitions. So in the one name memory, two partitions are there. And this partition so contains, so electronics, it contains electronics, and this contains footwear. Actually, this is in the memory. Actually, in the memory, it is 0, and this is 1. Generally, these are actually 0 and 1 are actually index numbers. These are the index number. But very important is, actually these electronics and footwears, there is property. 0 is a property. 0 is a string property, and 1 is a string property. 0 and 1 are string properties. Actually, these are called properties. Now, if anyone asks like how the values from an array are accessed, then immediately everybody tells that by using index number. Am I right? By using index number, am I right? So whenever we ask the question how the values are accessed, then immediately everyone say that index number. But actually, the values are accessed not by index number. They are accessed by using properties. those properties map to the index number. In the memory, data is in index number only. But to go to that index number, you need properties. Actually, you use properties. Index number is a number, but properties are string type. They have the same names. They have the same names. That is the reason you may think like you are using index number, but actually you are using properties. We can prove that. Let's prove this. See, suppose I am accessing here. I am removing this. This is initializing. I will remove here. I am writing here categories. Categories of, I am writing 0. And here I am storing electronics. Electronics. Okay. I am using categories. Categories of 1. I am writing string type. And I am saying here footwear. Footwear. I am writing like this. I think you have never seen people writing like string. Majority you have seen people writing like number only. Am I right? Am I right? Right? Using an index number only. So, but I am writing like a string form. I am writing in a string form. I am configuring and defining in a string form. I am configuring and defining in a string form. So, and I will print that. So I will print that document.write categories. Categories dot to string. How to print later I will tell you, string form. And you see that it is going to print those details, and it is going to print those details. That means I am writing like a string form. That means it is working. It is working. So that means actually these are properties. Okay, try like this now. Try like this. 0, categories of 0 and categories of 1. Categories of 0 and categories of 1. Categories of 0 and categories of 1. Now what are they? Index number, property. Now what are the index number of property? Every time they are property only, not index number. Even you write as a number, it is a string type only. It is a string type only. Let's prove that point also. I am writing like a number. I am writing like a number. For your understanding sake, I am showing you a simple logic. Don't worry what logic I am writing. That logic you will learn later. I am writing where property in categories. So I am writing a logic to read the properties. Document.write. We will print the property here. We will print the property. That means we will print the property here in the square brace. And I will print the type of the property also. To print the type of the property, you can write like this: type of property. So that means it will print the property type. What is the type of the property? And colon, I will print the value also. And I will print the value also. Here I will define the value also. That means here I will say categories of property. Don't worry what the logic I am writing. I will explain that later. Currently just observe the point. What is the concept here? I am writing a logic to print all the properties, their data type and the values. That means all these 0, 1, what they are. And I will save this and run this and see. You can see that. I will put a line break also here. So at the end, I will put a line break. So I will put a line break at the end here. And you see here, now I will refresh and run this here. You can see that 0, 1 are string type. Understood? That means they are not numbers. Understood? We are writing a program to get the data type of that 0, 1. And data type of 0, 1 is not number, it is string type. That means it is not index number. It is not index number. It is, even you write as a number, it is treated as a string only. So we call them as properties. Understood? Array properties. We call them as array properties. They are string type. These array properties map to the index number. Understood? These array properties map to the index number. You access based on that, and you generally call it directly index number. But technically they are not numbers, they are string type values. Actually they are string type. They are not numbers, so they are string type. I just written like a number only, but they are returning the data type. Data type of the property is string. Property is string type. That is important here, right? So index number name and property name will be same. That is the reason you may feel like you are using index number. Understood? But actually you are using a property that maps to that index number. Understood? That is the concept here. So how we can initialize the values, how you can initialize the values, how you can assign the values, how to initialize and how we can assign the value. Now, very important, one doubt usually comes, generally people ask like, what type of value I can store, what type of value I can store in an array. You can store any type of value in an array, any type of value. Many times in interviews they ask question, can I store a function in an array? Can I store a function in an array? Array is memory. Array is memory. And if you are talking about memory that doesn't have any restriction, you can store anything. Even if function also can be there in an array. You can store anything in an array. For example, here you see here, I am writing where, I am writing here. So I am writing here. So suppose callbacks is an array. And this array, this callbacks array, this is an array. This array contains a function. It contains a function. At 0, it contains a function. At 1, it contains another function. And remember, when you are writing functions in the array, so the functions must be anonymous type. Anonymous means function don't have a name. Function don't have a name. Now this function, suppose it is returning hello. This function is returning hello. That function is returning hello. And second function is taking two parameters, a comma b, and it is returning a plus b. The function is returning a plus b, addition of those two numbers. That means now array is a collection of functions here. Now how to access them? See, document.write. I will use callbacks. Callbacks of 0. 0 at 0, there is a function. And functions are accessed by using a parenthesis like this. And if I write like this, then it will access the first function and it will return that first function here. Whatever the return value of the function is there, it will get it. I will put a line break and I will access the second function. That means callbacks of 1 and it's a reference here. And you can see that the second one is also coming and it is printing the details. And it is saying not a number. Why not a number? Because it is expecting two parameters. We have to pass two parameters, 10 and some comma and some 30. And it will return the addition of those two numbers and display. That means array can have any type of value. In array, you can store any type of value. It can be a function, it can be a number, it can be a string, it can be a boolean. It can have various types of values. It can have various types of values. So that is actually the concept of configuring and defining the array. So you can configure the array, you can define the array. Initialization of array, assignment of values into array, or rendering values into array, allocating memory for the array. These are the basic things. How to manipulate the arrays is also very much important. But here observe, here in interviews, one more question will come. So these questions are Simple. So that means what type of values we can store in an array. I hope you are clear. You can store any type of value. Can we store functions in an array? Yes, you can store functions in an array. How do we store functions in an array? This is how we generally store function in an array. We configure the function in an array. There is another technique. You can do in this way. You can do in this way. Or there is another technique. What we can do is initialize the memory, and we can say callbacks of 0 at 0 is equal to, there will be a function, and this function will return, so welcome to arrays, something like this. And we have another option, callbacks of 1 at 1 you have another function, this will return, so this will return, function will have a comma b, and this function will return, so a into b, something like this. And you can see that that is also working fine. That means you can configure any type of value into the array. You can individually directly initialize the functions. So initialize the functions. You can individually configure the functions. So separately you can define the function in this way, or you can initialize the memory. In the memory you can store the values and you can configure the values. You can store and configure the values and define the values. That is the basic approach, how you manage the arrays and configure the arrays and work with the arrays. Right? That is the basic approach, how to deal with them. Now, important here is when you are configuring the functions, make sure that the functions are not defined with any name, because they are already allocated with the memory and they are accessed by using the memory name. They are accessed and configured by using the memory name. So you can handle different types of values here. Now, generally, after configuring the array, how do we define the array? What type of values we can store in an array? Actually, array can have a collection of arrays again. So that means array can have collection of arrays. Array can have collection of arrays, because many times people ask this question like, sir, in my technology, I have a jagged array or dictionary type of array, different. You can have array of arrays. That means multi-dimensional arrays or anything like that. You can have that. That means, for example, when you are defining an array here, I am defining var. Suppose values. So is an array. In this array, we are configuring another array. It contains A, it contains B, and after that we are configuring another array. It contains 10, it contains 20. So we can configure in this way. Now, how do we access A and B? Can you tell me how we can access A and B? How to access A and B? So how we can access A and B? So we can access A and B by using values of 0. At 0 there is an array. Then we have to use toString. Understood? We have to use toString. So this will get the values present at that location and it will return the values. That means there can be array inside array. You can configure an array inside array, and you can define an array inside array and use the array inside array. That's how we manage the arrays, configuration and handling the arrays, right? Now, these are all different points about dealing with the array and working with the arrays. Right? Now, how we can handle array manipulations are very important. Array manipulations means reading values from array, inserting values into array, deleting values from the array. So deleting values from the array. How we can deal with all this, like sorting array. All these are regular questions asked in interviews or front end and back end developers, actually full stack, UI, all these people, they ask these questions regular. So how do we deal with them? We will see now, reading, inserting, deleting with examples, with real world examples, how they are handled, how they are managed, we will see them. That we'll see in our next session, right? Tomorrow we will see that. So tomorrow I will upload, now today I will upload one exercise. Tomorrow, so I will explain how to design that exercise. You have to design that and submit to me, okay? So I will give you an exercise. You have to do that and you have to submit. So same like the KFC form I showed you yesterday. Another example I will give you, that you have to design by yourself and submit. If you are facing any issues, I will see that, right? Any problems that you are facing, we'll see that. Then tomorrow we will see some examples, live examples, how they are used with arrays, how we can use the arrays, right? Yeah.